Building multifamily ground up. In this video, I'm going to talk about best practices for you to follow if you are a multifamily developer or builder. I'm going to show you the right scheduling system to use, how to leverage your multifamily superpowers, and how to get this flow and the effects of those superpowers out in the field. If this is what you've come for, you're in the right place. Stay with us. So if you're in multifamily, you already know this. This is old news. Not only are you used to the development process and the design process and the construction process, but you know that you've got to find the right area with the right amenities. You've got to find the right location for your multifamily project. And you've got to make sure that you have good rent and sales prices. So that's a given. So you're probably, and the reason I'm saying this is I want to chunk this out. So if you're doing that part of the development, you've probably already got a good deal, right? You and the banks are going to make sure that you've got a good deal. So that's the first part. But there's more to it. Doing the design and the construction can really save you a lot of money if you implement the right systems the right way. So I want you to know about this little thing called Takt planning. And I know I talk about it a lot, and you're probably tired of hearing this. Takt planning works everywhere. It works on power plants, it works on data centers, it works on commissioning, but it especially works with multifamily. It's kind of like peanut butter. Like you can use peanut butter for a lot of different things, and it's pretty awesome. And I've seen some people just eat it right out of the jar. But peanut butter really is a jam on 2 slices of bread with some jelly. Like this is where this belongs. So Takt planning can work everywhere, but it really belongs with multifamily, just like peanut butter belongs to a PB&J. So I'm just saying, this is how we get good productivity. Let me explain how. Number one, on your site, when you're detailing out your multifamily project, you'll probably have different buildings, right? You'll probably have a community center. If you're in Phoenix, you have a pool, and you have this layout, right? Okay, so first and foremost, if you implement the right logistics systems and make sure that your phasing is broken up properly and you get your logistics on lock so that you have access to the buildings and you have the right supply of the materials. The second thing that you need to do is identify your standard space unit. We call this the SSU. And what you can do with the standard space unit is you can plug this into a calculator, and I will actually link that to you in the description below, where inside the calculator you can identify the zoning for your project. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I hope you're paying attention. You can identify the zoning of your project, and what will happen is it will tell you, according to your minimum standard space unit for your multifamily project, depending on the different numbers of zones. Let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get all the way down, right? It will tell you, at least per building or per phase, what the different zoning strategy will do to your project in duration. And what people don't know is that there's a massive curve with that. So let's say that you're a multifamily builder and you're like, I'm just going to make this whole floor one zone, or I'm just going to split it in half. Well, that might be just these first 2 options with these 2 end dates. It might not be the optimal. You could save weeks or months here by getting the right zoning strategy. Most multifamily projects at least need to have 4 zones throughout the floor in order to achieve ideal productivity without ever hurting trade partners. So I want you to know that when we use the Takt production system, which puts the trades on a takt time by zone, that having the right number of zones can massively affect the end date of your project. Now, I want you to just ask yourself, right, if you already have the right deal, everything that was a part of that deal meets your pro forma, you have gone through design, and now you're in construction. What would weeks or months on the schedule mean to you? What would the saved GCs and GRs mean to you? What would the early move-ins with additional rental money mean to you? Like, what would that mean to you? This is a huge part of the process. Because when we get the zoning right, we are able to identify a flow. And here's what I want to explain. If you have your trades, let's say you have trade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're going to start to work through these zones throughout the buildings, right, in a flow throughout on a consistent takt time. And it's really easy to measure their productivity. Now, I know that even in multifamily buildings, you have elevators, you have stairs, you have your meter banks, you have your rooms for your comm lines, you have your fire pump room, you have a lot of different other rooms. These get scheduled in there as well, but the main flow of the project, let's just take this building for an example, will look like a beautiful Takt plan, and then we'll also have these other support rooms. And because we're using this system of flow, we can typically reduce the overall duration by about 20%. Now that's a big promise. In Germany, you're probably going to tell me I'm a liar and unsubscribe to the channel, which please don't do. Please just subscribe, get more of this cool information, and like the video because it's an awesome video. In Germany, they're seeing up to 40 and 60%. Now, candidly, with our United States clients, we haven't gotten there yet, but at a minimum, we're at from 10 to 20%, shaving off the end and increasing the productivity of these project sites over and over and over, and people are making a boatload of money. So when we piece this out with the right zoning, we package the trades properly and level them, we have the right number of zones, we're able to create a schedule that can at least get up to 10 or 20% shaved off the end, which makes you, and I know this is why you're in business, more money as an investor. That's absolutely key. Let me just cover a couple more things before we're done. When you're doing this, I want you to know that your repetition is your superpower. Anything that you can prefab is key, but anything that you can kit is key as well. Meaning, you must leverage the fact that these buildings are a whole lot like Legos. So anything that you can prefab, anything that you can pre-kit, anything that you can do to leverage the repetitive nature of the building to allow the trades to get better zone by zone by zone, and watch and monitor that is going to help you. Now, some of you are thinking, J Money, this is great, but what about cabinets? They take forever. What about gypcrete? It just interrupts the entire flow. What about my framers? They're unruly. Every project where we implement Takt planning in this system on a multifamily project, and you have a committed team or a committed general contractor, or you ask us for help, you can get them into a leveled and even flow and leverage your superpower, which is repetition. So you can't worry about how fast your fast trades are going. It only matters how fast your slowest trades are going, and can you get them all going the same speed, the same distance apart. So that is absolutely key. Now, when you implement in the field, we have this concept called zone control, and I'm going to draw this out for you, which means that there are handoffs from zone to zone. Once you have the right number of zones, once you've leveled your trades, once you've scheduled everything out and gained that 20%, right, you'll have some buffer here. The way that you make sure that you maintain that flow, you have your trade partners working in the zone, right? They're jamming out. The general contractor at the handoffs where you're switching from zone to zone need to come do what's called a zone control walk. And what happens here is you look with the foreman on the units that have been completed, and you just go ahead and punch that out as you go. And then you work with the foreman to prepare the area ahead, maybe even the zone ahead, okay, so that work can be made ready out ahead. And this handoff, the time where you switch from this zone to that zone or this zone to that zone for each of the trade partners must be managed and monitored. And if you can manage those 2 to 3 handoffs per day, you can maintain that flow and realize for this 20%, even if things go bad and you have delays, you're going to realize at least 1 to 2/3 of that time savings, which amounts to a massive amount of money and a massive amount of benefit to you. So find your Lego, find that repetition, and then work with zone control throughout your multifamily project. And the last thing that you need to remember is the coordination of your schedule with your trades, the management of the handoffs, and the scheduling of your zone control walks is really done in an effective huddle system. So in case you're wondering, hey, J Money, what is the summary here? Typically we don't do summaries on videos because it's not recommended, but the key is if you've got a good deal and you've designed this project and you've started strong, you must break it up into zones according to the calculator, which I'll share in the description below. Get the right number of zones, get your crews packaged and right-sized, make sure that your zones are properly leveled and shaped, and then you will be able to cut weeks or months off of your project. You will want to prefab and use that repetition as your superpower. You will want to make sure that you are engaging in zone control walks in the field to maintain that flow, and you will have to have the right huddle system to communicate this. We will link you to a blog post in the description below for how to do this, and I want you to know we are multifamily experts. If you want to make a whole bunch of money, let us know. We will help you. We do this consulting all the time. The key is there's no reason every multifamily project shouldn't be using Takt. Every multifamily project shouldn't be doing zone control. Every multifamily project shouldn't be using the repetition as an advantage, and every multifamily project using the right collaborative system. Everyone right now in North America should be using it. It will save you weeks and months on your project. Give us a call. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.